All right, well, we're going to get started. Good afternoon and welcome to Like a Boss Now. I'm Kate Simmons-Tillotson. Thank you so much for being here, and we are so appreciative of our sponsors, Hub International and Bernstein Sure, as well as our Like a Boss series sponsors, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, JP Morgan Chase, Vistage, and the Unstoppable Coffee by Design. I'd first like to introduce our friend, the CEO of Bernstein Sure, Joan Fortin. But before Joan joins us, I have a very critical question for everyone, especially in these times, which is, what is your favorite Stonewall Kitchen snack? Snacks are really important these days. And I know I'm partial to the wild mean blueberry jam on top of a Triscuit with cheddar on top.
Whoa.
It's so good. And we can discuss wine pairings later. I have opinions about those too. But Joan, what's your favorite Stonewall snack?
Well, my second favorite is the wild Maine blueberry jam, but in this time of sequestering at home, I'm making a lot of homemade bread. And so my favorite Stonewall snack is raspberry jam on warm homemade oatmeal bread. Wow. It is not to be beat. So on behalf of Bernstein Sure, I just want to say hello to everyone, and we're absolutely thrilled to be sponsoring Like a Boss Now. I used to love Like a Boss, but right now at this time of social distancing and the stress and strain we're all under, I am especially pleased to be sponsoring and grateful to Lisa and the Portland Press Herald for bringing us all together for these opportunities to connect and talk with and hear from business leaders. So a lot of you heard from me last week. That's all I've got for today. I'm really excited to hear Lisa's conversation with John, and happy to sponsor, and thank you for having us.
You're so welcome. We've always been so grateful for the firm's support in Like a Boss and Like a Boss Now. I'd also like to introduce Peter Fendler of Hub International. Hub is the 5th largest insurance broker in the world. We rely on them for our benefits brokerage and for our retirement benefits, and they have strong local roots in the Maine community. And so with that, Peter.
Yeah, so I've been working with Stonewall for a long time, so I think I've had everything in their pantry at one point in time, and it's all great. But to pick one out, I'm going to go with the peanut butter chocolate sauce hot fudge that you put on nice French vanilla ice cream, and it's kind of my favorite. I got to go with that. Just with regard to Hub, you know, we've been partnering with the Press Herald for a long time, and just to echo what Joan said, the communication and the news is so important to us right now, and we thank you and the team at Press Herald for all the work that you guys are doing in getting information out there. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been doing a lot of work in trying to digest the information on the Families First and CARES Acts that have been passed, and we're actually starting to see the downstream impact of that, where clients are getting money and their employees are getting money. So maybe there's a little light at the end of the tunnel, but if we can be help to any of our clients or anybody even who isn't a client in the benefits or property and casualty space or retirement plan space, please lean on us. We're happy to help you out. Thanks. Back to you, Kate.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you always. We've always been able to rely on Hub. I hope everyone is excited. I'm going to pass it off to the CEO and publisher of the Portland Press Herald, Lisa DeSisto. Take it away, Lisa.
Thank you, Kate. And thank you, Joan and Peter. We so appreciate the support from Hub and Bernstein Sure. It really helps fund our journalism. Last night, I'm sure many of you experienced a power outage, and I actually think some of you are probably maybe using your last battery life on your phone to join us today. I do hope your power comes back on soon. But last night, as so many of our editors are working from home, I was seeing all of these emails where their power had gone out, and I still cannot believe that we actually made deadline last night and got the papers out on time this morning. So pandemic, power outage, like, we are bringing you the news and keeping you informed. And sponsorship of this series is really critical in helping us do that. So I thank you. And John, thank you so much for being with us today. We first sat down in 2017 and got a deep dive on Stonewall and your leadership strategies and experience. And I know Strawberry, who's our producer, who's amazing, will pop the link in the chat to your previous session so folks can go back if they have time and watch that talk. So boy, this came really, really fast, and as a leader, having to respond so quickly really challenges our fortitude. So talk to us about what were your first instincts? How did you respond?
For us, it was it was really about communication, first and foremost, communication and team decision making. We had lots of communications with our customers, like I'm sure most companies do. But for us, it was largely our employees and making sure that we took care of our internal staff during this time. For us, we've been very fortunate, certainly relative to a lot of other companies, because we're in food, we're able to stay in business, and people are certainly buying a lot of food. But we also have 9 retail stores, and we had to close those and announce a furlough for 150 plus employees, which was really tough for a company with a culture like ours. And so for us, it was really about how do we take care of our people as best we can, knowing that at some point this will pass and we will get back to 100%. And so we very early on as a group decided that we would announce what we called 10 Stonewall Kitchen coronavirus days, 10 days that employees could take off, essentially no questions asked. If they weren't feeling well, if they had to take care of someone at home. This was before the Family First Act. When we announced the furlough, rather than implement it right away, we pushed it back to April 16th. In fact, it hasn't started yet. To enable our employees to take advantage of the emergency paid sick leave under the FFA. And during their furlough for the first 60 days, we'll keep them on our benefits programs, and we'll pay their premiums for healthcare. We're offering. We created what we call an everyday hero bonus program for the folks who still have to come in, because we're not a knowledge organization in the same way that many other firms are. We're a manufacturing and distribution company.
Right.
So roughly 2/3 of our employees still have to come into the building every day, either to make food or to get food out the door. And then there are some folks whose jobs just require them to be around, IT, HR in some cases. And so for us, those folks are our everyday heroes. And so we created a bonus program for them. But as much as anything, we're also really looking to see how can we keep our folks employed and active. We have a candle making facility in Wells, and our production there has gone down as some of their large customers have closed. And we've taken those employees and moved them over to our distribution center, where we're experiencing tremendous demand in D2C. So it's been a very challenging few weeks, as I know it has been for other CEOs. But we've really had a focus on how do we take care of our people, how do we take care of our guests, how do we take care of our customers, and that's been our focus really for the last few.
So you really moved people around where you need them. Although with the power outage last night, I could have actually used some candles. So you might want
arguably an essential business
you might want to fire that up again. So that's right. So Stonewall is deemed as an essential business. So, and I know you call yourself an omni-channel company. So explain what that is, and then also talk about how each piece has been impacted.
So this part of the business is really interesting because in being omni-channel, in addition to having a very broad product line, has provided some real benefits to us in terms of parts of the business being able to stay open and to thrive, and certainly some pain, parts of the business that can't stay open. So the 3 channels that we operate our business in are retail stores, and obviously those have had to close.
Right.
Direct to consumer, on the other hand, which is our website of stonewallkitchen.com, our Amazon business, and then our what we call Premier Services business, which is the call center that we have here in York. That business has been booming. Not surprisingly, people are ordering more food online. We have a selection of staples and specialty goods that happen to really meet people's needs. They're shelf stable with long shelf lives. So that business feels almost like peak season to us. We've been hiring additional staff out in the distribution center. We're getting literally thousands of orders a day, which for us is substantial. It's about, on some days, it's 10 times what we would typically experience for March. In fact, we hit our April budget on April 5th. So it's a great problem to have. One interesting part of that, as we think about that omni-channel piece being both online but also telephone, is our guest services group, led by a woman named Sonia Keniston. They still come into the office. A few of them can work from home, but some still come into the office. And what's amazing and hard to appreciate is you tend to take for advantage that everyone in America has a computer and can order food online, but they don't. There's a pretty large percentage of Americans who don't have computers. And so the calls that we get are largely from older folks who only have a phone and who are just so pleased to be able to talk to someone. And
Sure.
so I'm almost tearing up telling the story because I was up there last week and Sonia tells the story, and it's amazing. They just want to talk on the phone with someone while they're placing their order, and it's really sweet. And so that's a neat part of the business too. And then the third part of our business, and the biggest part of our business, is our wholesale business, so selling to other customers. And that's been a bit of a mixed bag. A lot of our large customers are shut down. So L.L. Bean, for example, is closed. Macy's, the big department store, is closed. We sell a lot to TJX, which is, think Marshalls and TJ Maxx and Home Goods. We sell them a lot of candles, for example. They're closed. And so that part of the business has struggled. Small mom and pop gift shops, those are for the most part closed. But grocery stores are booming. And fortunately, we sell a fair amount of business into grocery stores. And we have some product lines like pasta sauces, meal starters, which are in very high demand. So we consider ourselves pretty fortunate, even with some of the negatives that have impacted the business, for sure.
Yeah, and your products are also in club stores, right?
We are, yeah. So actually, you've seen pictures, I'm sure, of Costco's where there's just a line out the door and empty shelves. To fill those shelves, they call us and say, hey, can you send 2 trucks of organic wild Maine blueberry jam? We're like, we don't typically carry that in inventory, but we'll see if we can make it. And so actually, just down the hall from me in production, we're making Costco product all this week in big 30-ounce jars of blueberry and peach jam.
Wow. So what are the things that are the biggest sellers right now? You mentioned pasta, which we know is really hard to get at Hannaford, for example, but also you're not going to get it, I guess, right now through the Stonewall e-commerce channel. What else is moving?
Pasta is definitely the biggie. We import about 11 containers a month from Italy. And so fortunately, Italy is still open and shipping. And those are effectively sold out for the next 2 months. So we will run out of that at some point. Meal starters, pasta sauces. The other interesting side of the business that is really booming are drink mixers and cocktail cherries and pickled vegetables. America is drinking its way through quarantine. If you haven't seen the video of Ina Garten whipping up just a massive Cosmo in a martini glass, it's hilarious. She comments that it's always 5 o'clock in quarantine. That martini glass, interesting story, was given to her by John and Jim, the founders of Stonewall Kitchen. So,
oh wow,
worth Googling and looking up. It's a great.
Yeah, actually, Strawberry just posted the link in the chat because she is amazing. Yeah, so that's a great story. Yes, certainly I think people are starting their happy hours a little bit earlier. So that makes a lot of sense. There was a question in the chat where someone asked about, they'd like to know more about the Everyday Hero bonus program. How's it structured or applied?
It's really interesting. So our director team is about 12 of us on the leadership team. And we took a look at all of the employees who have the ability to work from home, and as important as they are to us, those folks don't really qualify for this program. This is really intended and geared towards the folks who have to come in every day. And it's perfectly safe to come into Stonewall Kitchen every day. We've done all the things the CDC recommends to make it as safe as possible. But we know that for folks that's it's just more challenging in some ways than working from home. And so our director team identified all the folks across the organization who do that. Obviously, everyone in production, everyone in distribution qualifies for that. And we structured it effectively as a pay for every hour worked. So it's a way of not putting a permanent raise in place, but increasing the dollars per hour that you would get based on the number of hours you worked, which we did for March and we'll do for April, and likely continue as well beyond that.
Yeah. That sounds like a great program. So I see that you're in your office, and I do want to let all of our viewers know that I am not at the Press Herald, although it looks like I am. But that is what our newsroom looks like right now, completely empty. So I have this like faux background. But how did you wrestle with this idea of either coming in the office and being visible, or staying home? Yeah. Because it's something I'm wrestling with, so I want to hear about how you.
Yeah,
because we're a manufacturer too. Sorry.
It was very much a leadership dilemma, and talked about it with our leadership team. The feeling being, hey, if our folks have to be in the office, we're going to be in the office with them. And there was some very good counsel given across this email communication group I'm in, which you and I might talk about later. That resonated and made a lot of sense. Which said, look, the best thing you can do for all of your employees who have to be in the building is not be there, and thereby lower their risks of catching something from you. So with that said, you have a responsibility as a leader to model working from home, but I do think there's also a responsibility to model the fact that, hey, it's okay and safe to come into the office every so often. So I probably come in 2 days a week for a couple hours at a time, and I make it a point of walking through the building to say hi to people. And you get reactions from that you just can't get working at home. I'll give you an example. Our production facility, you may know, is behind glass, so that guests can visit it. And the day after we announced the Everyday Heroes program, I came in, stood behind the glass, and we have a line operator named Jane Harvey. She's been with us 15 plus years. Diehard Red Sox and Patriots fans. She and I bet on them every season. I always lose. And she's deep into a kettle cleaning it out, but I finally get her attention and I wave at her and I just mouth the words, thank you. And I start to walk away and I hear from behind the glass, Jane's, hey! And I turn back and look at her and she says, thank you. And I got to tell you, you just, I'm tearing up again thinking about that story too. You don't get those kinds of things if you're working home every day. And so it's a very appropriate balance. I'm by far working from home most of the time, but I think coming in every so often is an important signal to the folks who are here that, hey, you're not forgotten. We know you're here in Heroes.
That's great. Okay, so that means I probably should get myself into the press room at some point, which I haven't done. So I'm gonna continue to think about that, though. It is a balance between are you supporting people better in the office or better at home, and so I'm gonna pepper in a couple of questions that I see coming in on the chat, and one is, what have you learned about yourself during this crisis? Which is a great question from George Casey.
Thanks, George. I don't know. I've probably just had some things reinforced more than new learnings. One is really the importance of communication, and the other is the importance of your team, having a great team in place to support you, because like any business, this isn't a one-man show, and what's allowing us to get through this are some really, really talented people in HR. Our VP of HR is phenomenal, and with 150 plus furloughs and FMLA cases and sick days, that has been a real challenge. We have phenomenal folks in production and distribution, figuring out how we're going to segregate manufacturing into separate shifts, how we're going to enforce social distancing in the distribution center. We have a brand new CFO. Welcome to the team, Rick. He just joined, And within, gosh, I think 10 days, it was stay at a go home. And our sales and marketing, our chief of sales and marketing, I mean, that's not been easy to wrestle all the customers that we have, while PS, we're also trying to integrate, a new acquisition. So the importance of having a really good team and a really solid strategy enable you to be responsive to completely unforeseen events like this, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point from a leadership perspective. Is you think about your team all the time and supporting your team and making sure that they all work together. So when something like this happens, they know what to do, right? And you can count on them. And I think that I've had the exact same experience. So
yeah. And I mean, I could go on through the functions, ITIS, getting all of us suddenly at home. We put 30 new laptops in place so that many more people could go home. The team, just throughout the organization, it's people really stepping up. It's been terrific.
Yeah, for sure. Let me see. I have so many questions. I feel like we even haven't scratched the surface, and I think we will go a little bit longer than 1:30. So if other people have meetings that you have to go to and you need to drop off, we respect that. But we want to get to your questions. Let's talk about your community support. So how have you been able to give back to the community? What's that look like?
This has been a really neat source of pride for us. So in addition to our retail stores, as you know, we have a cafe and a cooking school, and those had to close as well. And we took the opportunity with that, rather than furloughing those employees, to say, hey, you know what? Why don't we take our expertise, what we do well, and just keep making meals, but let's just donate them to the organizations who need them. And so we have we've donated now over 2,000 meals to organizations like the York Senior Center, the Wells Senior Center, the York and Wells School District, food pantries down in Portsmouth, all the way up to Biddeford and Waterville in some cases. So
oh, wow.
A number of different community organizations that are reaching those in need. So that's been fantastic. Then earlier this week, we took those same crews and said, hey, with our stores closed, we have a lot of Easter merchandise that is just sitting on the store floor. And obviously, we're not opening up again in time for Easter. And so rather than have that merchandise just sit there or go to waste, we took those teams and said, hey, can you make as many gift baskets, Easter baskets as possible? And let's donate those too. And so they made 250 plus Easter baskets and donated them to the York and Wells School District, so that families who might not otherwise have been able to put together the kind of Easter that they wanted. Oh, for those who are on the video, there's a picture of the Easter bags being created.
Oh, those look yummy.
Yeah. And so that was just a really neat thing. We also took 30 of those over to the Wells Senior Center, and those went to some of the loneliest shut-ins, and that just
don't start again, John.
I know. What's going on? That's just really sweet. So
yeah,
the third thing which we're working on, this is a neat concept. It hasn't come to fruition yet, but hopefully next week, is Dave Woods down at Wiggly Bridge Distillery, which is just a block down the road from us here in York, has converted his distillery to make ethyl alcohol, which he's in turn using to mix hand sanitizer. So ethyl alcohol is made of 3 ingredients: pure cane sugar, which we have a lot of, yeast and water. And so we donated pallets of sugar, the same sugar that goes into our wild Maine blueberry jam. He's whipping up the alcohol, and then, there, for those on the video, you can see those are 2 750-gallon vats on the left and the right of ethyl alcohol, which is essentially a pure rum being created. The one in the middle is bourbon. And so he'll distill that, mix it, put it into 5-gallon pails. We'll take it up to our Wells facility and pour it into 1-gallon jugs and retail-sized pumps. And that will then go to York Hospital, York Fire Department, Century Hills nursing homes, and some of the other first responders in the area as well. So that's just, a neat.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, a neat thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
Kind of
do you think Stonewall hand sanitizer will be a product that emerges from this?
Highly likely, yes.
Yeah, I think so.
We had it at one point actually, and it just didn't sell that well. But boy, I wish I had it now. Oh,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's yeah. That's a great. Yep. Makes a great gift. So there's a question in the chat. Then we're going to go to the Q&As. Strawberry, do we have time for people to raise their hand and bring them on? Are we doing that or not?
We do have plenty of questions in the Q&A, but if
Okay.
people have live questions, we can certainly take those too.
Okay, so well, let's start with this one question in the chat, then we'll go to the ones that have been submitted in the Q&A. The one in the chat is, what's your approach to marketing, Ben? How are you balancing business as usual selling without coming off insensitive?
Oof. Yeah, good question. So we're fortunate to have a really strong VP of marketing in Janine Summers. We have taken a very low-key approach to marketing. So we have dialed almost all of it back, where typically we would do 2 or 3 emails a week announcing sales and Prime, try this, try that. It's been more like 1 a week, and usually, hey, you know, kind of a need to restock your pantry type thing. And so, you know, I am sure at some point as we come out of this, we will transition back to a more normal marketing approach. But for the most part, we've been very low key, also trying to be pretty low key about the community service things we're doing, because it's not the kind of thing you brag about. It's
right. You just do.
Happy to be doing it.
Yeah.
So not a lot of marketing right now, but that will, you know, obviously ramp up significantly as we come out of this.
Right. So looking at some of the questions in the Q&A, Bob Dunley asks, will Stonewall use the PPP loan grant to pay laid off employees?
So unfortunately, PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Program, we do not apply for, even though we're just under 500 employees. We're owned by a private equity group, and under SBA affiliation rules, we get picked up with all of their other portfolio companies. So we don't qualify for PPP. We are, however, using other aspects of the CARES Act, and as I mentioned earlier, the FFA, the Family First Act. Mm-hmm. So most notably, there are some employee retention credits that we can use for employees that we've kept on. And Social Security payment
deferment.
Yeah, but sometimes I feel like a legislative analyst, sometimes an HR professional, sometimes a doctor and a scientist, as we explore just a bunch of different things that we've never really had to know much about before.
Well, I think all of our vocabulary's expanded over the past, month and a half. We've all become students of these programs, and I'm thankful that we have counsel that helped us wade through the 660-page CARES Act. Yeah. We are at the Press Herald and Maine Today Media going to qualify for the PPP program, and I am so paranoid that I'm going to do something wrong and then have to pay it back. So this is what is keeping me up at night.
Understandably so.
Yes, an anonymous attendee who I think is your brother said, where did you get that haircut?
Oh boy. So interestingly, like probably a lot of other people, I bought a haircutting kit off Amazon.
Oh, you did?
So this is, there's a reason I'm not getting too close to the camera. This is self-administered. I pop a 6 blade on it, run it over the whole head. It's got a left ear, right ear thing, and then a little scissor trim in front. Yeah, that's how we're getting through this thing.
That's impressive. Well, I only have a couple squirts left in my root spray. So yeah, probably next week I'm going to have a whole new look. But anyway, let's see. You mentioned, you mentioned that you had to hire many new people to keep up with production demand. Why not move some of the furloughed employees to those jobs? Oh, what happened to John? Did we lose him?
It does look that way. Hang on just a second. If we can get him back.
Okay. Wow. That's a first. Okay. Well, while we're waiting to get John back, I'll just do some of my wrap-up remarks. And I wanted to say that next week, we're going to have Leanne Leahy from VIA on with us. And she's going to really talk about how brands are pivoting during this time and what the right messaging is. Also, she's going to talk a lot about the incredible culture that they have at VIA and how they've taken some of those aspects and utilized them for their work from home culture, which is going to be a great talk. I also had sat down with Leanne previously for the Like a Boss interview, the in-person interview. So that's also available if you wanted to watch that. And I also wanted to urge you to watch our This Day in Maine History segment, which I'm sure Strawberry will pop into the chat. We had Travis Mills record today's because it's actually about him. And he has an amazing story and just a nice moment of inspiration that I think we could all use today. Oh, look, Strawberry's already put it in there. So we're hoping that John comes back. I don't know what happened. And also Strawberry's put up the registration link for Leanne Leahy. Now, we had a regular Like a Boss in-person one scheduled for May 15th with Michael Bork, who's the CEO of Memic. So we're obviously not going to be meeting in person then, but we will do a full length Like a Boss with Michael coming up, and we'll have the registration link available for that. So, boy, I have filled up as much time as I could. I can't believe I'm actually at a loss for words. Let's see. Strawberry, I guess no word from John then, right?
No, I haven't been able to connect with him.
All right. I wonder if they lost power in York. Well, here's what we're going to do. Since we haven't been able to reconnect with John, and we do still have some more questions, what we will do is we'll get John to answer those questions, and then we'll push them out and make them all available to you. And Strawberry you will get an exit survey. So please give us feedback on how we're doing. We really appreciate everyone being with us. Sorry for the technical problem, because I wanted to hear more about that haircut. But Stonewall's been doing a great job satisfying demand, taking care of their customers and their community. So we thank John and have a great weekend. If that's possible, please stay at home, and we look forward to all getting back together again next Friday. So thanks again to our sponsors, Hub International and Bernstein Shore.